Hey everybody, this is PJ Riley from Lancaster Archery down here in our Lancaster Archery Academy, and we're here to talk to Shiana Battle. We're going to get an update, Shiana, on the Mantis X8, which is a shooting analysis tool. Shiana, you and I did an extensive video on this last year. It goes over the setup and the basics of it. If you folks want to check it out, you can check it out right here or click the link in the description below. But Shiana, yes, we wanted to talk about now what more the Mantis X8 can do, because it can do a lot of cool stuff. Tell us about some of the additions we're going to be looking at.
Okay, so the first one I want to mention is we have updated the Mantis mount. So you're going to still get that Picatinny rail, but you'll notice that it does have an inserted screw hole now, and it comes with a screw. So you can still use the 3M sticky tape to mount it, but you also have the additional option to mount this screw in those quiver holes on your hunting sights, or even the sight holes on most bows. So we'll stick that back in there and we'll get over to the software stuff.
That just allows it to be attached to more equipment.
More equipment, yes.
Depending on sights, bows, etc., all that. And this, we should say, this is still the Mantis X8. That's what you're putting on there. I mean, it weighs nothing. If anybody's worried about weight, it weighs nothing.
Yeah, it weighs less than a dime, so pretty small device. It's not going to offset you while you're shooting or anything. No added weight or counterbalance.
Gotcha.
Everything else we're going to talk about is going to be software updates. There's a lot that we've crammed in here. It's always evolving, and so we want to mention that, you know, all the app updates are always going to be free. They're always going to come roll out, and most of the time if you have your auto updates on, you'll be able to see this stuff. So the most notable one I want to mention is going to be we have the add-in of setting up your bow. So we'll just kind of go in and review what that would be. So on your recurve side, you can name your bow, put your make, so your whichever brand, the model, and then you can enter your length, your draw weight, your stabilizer lengths and stabilizer weights as well. And that's really important, so you can compare and contrast when you're...
So this would be one profile. You would shoot under this profile, and then if you change something, you could have a separate so that you can look and see which. Because I know that one of the things we talked about was a lot of things may feel better, but it isn't actually.
Exactly. So for instance, say everything on the bow is the same, but I just changed my stabilizers, just create a whole new bow setup for that, and then I can kind of see what my stability scores or my traces are looking like across the board.
Gotcha.
On the compound side, you have some extra data like the D-loop length, which is super important, and then your holding weight as well as your peep height. So that way you have a quick reference, as well as say you find yourself in a pickle and you need to go to a new shop and you need to show them, you know, what's going on. You've got a record of it here, and you can also compare and contrast as you get new bows over the years, and change things.
Critical, because it's amazing what's doing something like just changing your D-loop length. I mean, that could take you from a little bit of float to super steady.
It sure can. So that's one of the bigger ones. Another addition is we have updated and added new targets in. I know before in the video you could only see the 10 ring World Archery target, but we've added in the 3 spots, the vertical and the Vegas, as well as the 80 centimeter reduced 6 ring target, some extras here, and then of course your NFAA targets. So you've got field and the indoor target. So you've got all of those additionals. Just kind of review here. The distances are all the World Archery distances, and some shorter, some longer. And then you can also set the size so that you actually get an accurate overlay with your trace. So it's really important that you set this up before you begin your session. Coming over, going back into, let's just go look at some historical data here. If we were in a session, you actually have the option now to see the elevations of multiple targets. So if you're shooting a 3D or a field event, you can actually see what those distances and differences are, excuse me, not distances, but the pitch and cant angles and elevation starting or finish angle is there.
Right, so if there's a hill or if you're shooting, gotcha.
Another one that I like to show people that's really important is the timer screen. So before, of course, when we were looking at our traces, we always had the time down here so you could see the total time for the shot, and as you
Go back to that last
Sure.
screen and just show, like explain what's happening across that.
So
bar
these
there.
colors here are going to coordinate with the colors of the trace. So in this case, the person was raising their bow for approximately a second. They began to kind of settle down into the target for about a quarter of a second, and then they finish that second settling into their hold. And then we see the orange here is where they were coming into their anchor and completing that shot process. And then, you know, it measured a little bit of the after shot data there too. So those colors are going to correspond to what's in your trace. But as we would go over, you still get these times broken down, but we could see a graph of our movement. Now we go over into the screen and we get historical data. So we can see how long each shot takes us. We can see how long we're in each phase of the shot. So again, raising the bow, settling down to the target, you're coming into that anchor, and then at this point you're anchored and ready, you know, you're holding on the target ready to release the shot. So we can see how long this part of the shot takes, and I think this is the most important part.
Yes. This one here probably didn't go well.
Yeah, I don't know.
It wouldn't
Maybe
for
not.
me.
Yeah.
You start holding a long time.
Holding more than normal for sure. And then you also get that split time, so you can see if you are rushing your shots or if you're just kind of turtling along and taking too long in between shots as well. So that's really, really a nice add-in.
Yes.
And then I think my favorite here, let's go ahead and unlock this screen. We're going to plot her arrow in here, and then we'll go back over to the trace view for shot 5. And what we'll see is now that we've plugged in that shot, you can actually toggle in an overlay on top of the target.
So the orange here is which part?
So this is her holding and aiming there. So you can see she actually was holding down here and kind of pushed the shot up a little bit and a little over to the right from where she began initially holding. So it seems like that's a whole lot of movement based off the size of that target downrange. So it really does give us a better idea of how we are moving while we're shooting.
Right, right. And then you as a coach, now you're looking at that data and you're trying to do things to minimize that hold, reduce the amount of movement, things like that.
For sure. And usually what I'll do is I'll give them the feedback, I'll show them what's happening here and kind of reinforce, you know, okay, well, this is what happens when you do said thing. So, you know, it definitely helps us all kind of visualize and utilize the data.
Which, again, you know, as an individual archer, if you're using this, you can do that yourself. You as a coach, that's not necessarily something you can see, just standing there. I mean, you could see stabilizer movement, but you don't know that it's doing that.
No, not at all. And the degrees of movement, I think, are super important too, because like as you're zooming in, remembering from last time, that degree of motion is always going to be plotted over here on the left-hand part of the screen, so you can see, you know, just about how much movement this is. So it's 0.8 degrees of movement here. So, I mean, that's actually quite a bit when you see that you're holding here and you push up and over.
Right, right.
So kind of moving along here, so we've talked about the placement.
Yes.
We can go back over here to the settings screen and we'll see some of the other add-ins that we have. So additionally, you can use sub-users. So say you have a child or someone who doesn't have a phone, or you're a coach like me and you don't want to mix up all of the users who are using your app and your profile. So you can actually create sub-users and individual bow profiles for these individuals so that you can kind of sort through that data when you go back and look through your history and pick it up a lot quicker.
Because you still want yours, obviously, because this is one of the benefits of this is the progression.
Yes.
To see what's happening over time. You there could be some real subtle things that you don't even know are happening. But if you look in here, okay, I'm having trouble here or I'm doing better. That's what we hope anyway.
Exactly.
I'm doing better here.
Exactly. So tracking for those consistent points or seeing the deviations when, you know, it is one of those subtle changes. You know, you might just move a little bit over here, a little bit over there, but, you know, that's going to translate to big results downrange. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially on those longer ones, 50 meters, 70 meters. Yeah.
So for sure. So we'll talk about the clicker add-in. So For our recurve shooters, if you go over to settings, you can actually go into advanced settings and toggle on the clicker for recurve.
Gotcha.
It's only going to work on recurve, so don't expect that in your compound shooting. But what it does is it gives you this little square where the clicker has actually gone off. When they have kind of completed that draw phase, clicker's gone.
Right.
And so you can kind of zoom in and see how they're moving after that's gone off. And I think that's really important because most of the time, again, even as a coach, I can't tell what's happening with those little micro movements after that.
A lot of time, it's almost instantaneous. Clicker goes off, arrow's gone.
So that's a super helpful one for our recurve archers, and occasionally you might have a bare bow shooter. But so one of the things I really like now, one of the new add-ins, is if we have a shot that has gone rogue that we don't like, or if we get a false shot, you can actually click long hold on the shot and delete it. And so that actually helps us keep our data clean and accurate as we're going through our shooting sessions. Another new update is a lot of archers have requested that we can increase the sessions from the 30 arrow sessions to the 36 arrow session. So that is now available, so you can shoot up to 36 arrows in a session. And that part, I think, helps us out a lot, especially when we're out doing outdoor archery and you know, those long days. We don't have to keep resetting our phone every 30 arrows, or remembering to reset our phone, which is probably the caveat there.
And seeing over time, okay, how was I on the first end? How was I on the last end?
Exactly. And so just to kind of branch over from there, one of the final updates that I know they've done in both in the app is to kind of help us with some of the session data and bug fixes. So occasionally, say we were out on a ASA range and we were shooting 20 targets, right? What happens if you walk down range with your phone in your pocket? Bluetooth is only going to be good to a certain distance. So we actually have the option now to reconnect in a session. So we'll kind of show you how that would work. So say that we're connected, we're in the shot, and I walk down range with my phone or my device, then it's going to be able to have that option for you to reconnect in the session over here where this button is.
Rather than having to start a new one and then you lost all that data. You didn't lose it, but it's separated.
It's in a different session, So we can consolidate and keep things organized.
All right, so Shiana, I think what we're going to do is we're going to put this on my bow. People will get to see my lack of abilities there, but more importantly, they'll get to see the demonstration on the screen here.
PJ, we'll go ahead and start by entering your data in. So let's add setup. We'll go ahead and click add. We'll put you in here. And then, what make is your bow?
Matthews.
And what model?
TRX 38 G2.
All right, and then what, if you know, is your drawing?
I do. It is at 30 1/2 inches.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and enter these all into their individual fields. You know what your draw weight is set at?
It's right at 62 pounds.
Wow, that sounds heavy. All right, and then, so do you know your stabilizer lengths and weights?
33 inches for the front.
Okay. And then
the rear is 15 inches. The weight on my front bar is 8 ounces.
All right. And then what's the weight on your rear bar?
And the weight on the rear bar is 18.
Awesome. All right. So you can click save there. And we're there. So here is the Mantis. Are you ready to mount to your bow, or do we need to put a new mount on there?
We need a new mount. This is a new bow. Okay, so I took my sight off. Where are we going to mount this?
All right, PJ, so we're going to just mount this to the dovetail here on your sight bar. I'm going to peel off this backer here so we can stick it right on there. And we'll go ahead and get it mounted to your sight. So we're going to stick it right here. Make sure that it's level. We'll hold it for about 10 seconds. And you should be good to go. So the Mantis can mount either forward or backwards. It's super important to make sure that you actually log that in the settings depending on which way you choose. With the charging port facing you, it's going to be in the forward orientation. If the charging port was facing downrange, it would be in the backward orientation. Since we have it mounted on the right side of this right-handed sight, we're going to also make sure that it's logged in the settings as right-handed. I'm going to hand this back to you, and it should slide right in there, and we can get started.
All right, Shiana, so we got the Mantis down here. I'm going to turn it on, and we're going to calibrate it. Light comes on, and so we just set it down until it stops blinking.
Yes. Be helpful if I press connect.
All right, so we're ready to shoot?
Yep, we'll go ahead and start your session. And one really awesome add-in there I like to show folks is the digital level. So if you're using the Mantis to set up bows, that's another way to check your bubbles. But we'll go back to that live screen and kind of watch you do some shots.
Look at that. There
Nice.
it is, moving all around on the screen there. All right. Let's see what happens here. Okay. Slow.
Awesome.
Should have let that one down, but it made it.
Yeah. So we'll go down range, we'll plot these.
All right. Let's check it out.
So let's go ahead and plot these.
All right,
PJ.
let's see what we got.
So the first one, we're in the 10. Second shot, we're gonna move on down here to this 9. And third shot, we'll go back into the bottom of that 10. So I find it a little easier if I click on the arrow number and then touch the place on the target, because then the target will zoom in instead of trying to drag and drop from over in the left-hand corner.
Right.
I've found that that's been a lot easier across the board.
Gotcha.
Well done, good shooting here.
Okay, so what do we see in my
Trace.
charts there?
So let's go back and look at the overlay. So this is shot 3. So we can see here, you were holding a little bit over to the right, and then the shot broke down. For shot 2,
holding to the left.
holding a little low and left, and
And
the
that's
shot
where it ended. Yeah,
broke
yeah.
up. And then for shot 1, we were holding right on there, and we hit the money spot. So well done across the board there.
I generally feel more comfortable on the first shot. I'm sure everybody does.
Yeah, I can agree with that one.
Yeah, so, all right, so you as a coach, you look at that, and so you're saying, all right, PJ, what we need to work on is what? X.
First thing is, I would say let's look at this first shot, because this is what we want to emulate. This is what we want to repeat time and time again.
Gotcha.
So what was different, right, from the first shot to the second shot to the third shot? in the second shot, we don't even have the line of raising the bow because it was a super long hold. So if we go over to this timer screen, we held that shot for 12 whole seconds, and we only took about a second to raise the bow, right? So in that, the total time for that shot was still 13 seconds. So you are consistent with that across the board. So you're just remember when you said I should have let down? Always let down. If you feel like you should, then you should, because the brain has that moment to kind of calculate that, right? So again, it's more about what you did right and repeating that than what you did wrong. And that's what I really like to reinforce is, all right, what went well? This is what went well, right? We had good shots. We had success with shots 1 and 3. Shot 2 didn't go where we wanted. So what went wrong there? And honestly, I think it was just a time, and you held a little too long, and that was it.
I could feel it. Gotcha. Well, that's awesome. And then certainly, you know, I've played with this before. Like you said, you know, it's over time seeing where things get difficult. Like, is it the second one that gives me trouble all the time, which it tends to usually be. But that's important to know, because then you know what to work on.
For sure. And then like maybe if we wanted to kind of compare and contrast, because remember we have that time in between shots, right? So from the first shot to the second shot took 46 seconds. The third shot was 32 seconds. So, you know, maybe even making a point of consistency, how long you take after the shot. Do you need a break after each shot? Do you need to just kind of dial out, dial back in? Those kind of things.
I do. Well, awesome, Shiana. We are definitely excited about the updates to the Mantis X8. We certainly appreciate you telling us about them. Folks can learn more about this, obviously, on your website, which is?
It's mantisx.com. Or mantisarchery.com, actually.
And we obviously have these at Lancaster Archery Supply. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like it, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to click that bell to get notifications whenever we put out new videos. And as always, if you have any questions, you can visit us at lancasterarchery.com.